Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Lauren and we are doing my January wrap up. So I read 18 books in the month of January, which wasn't my biggest reading month, but I feel like that's kind of like my new average. Somewhere between 15 and 20 is my new monthly average. Those are 7 audiobooks, 8 ebooks. I had 2 physical books and I read I had one that was like a mixture. I had 17 adult books and then 1 new adult book. I gave 1 1 star, 2 2 stars, 3 3 stars, 7 4 stars, 4 5 stars, and then 1 I did not rate. The book I didn't rate was a book that I DNF'd. It is called Death's Destiny. It really, again, it's not the vibe for me. It gives me the ick because like they're fated mates, but they get fated when she's a literal child. She was 5 when they first met, and yeah, it's not the book for me. I'm really not gonna say much outside about it because I made it like half of the way. I think I made it to like 63% in and I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm never gonna get past the feeling that this book is like Jacob and Renesmee Bay fan fiction. That's how I felt about it. So my 1 star was Balance by Lucia Franco. I really wanted to like this book because I know a lot of people love it. It just simply is not the book for me. It is like a very taboo romance. She's under it, like in the book on KU. I read this by audio, by the way. On the Amazon KU book, the main girl is, I don't even remember her name, but she's like 18 and she's having an affair with her coach who's like 30 something. It's like he's like 27 years older than her, and her dad is significantly older than her mum, so she's like not that jarred by it, which is fine. Like I get it. I know that the version that Lucia has on her website is the main girl, the FMC is underage. So that I'm not okay with. It is a very spicy, smutty book. I don't like the virginity trope. I don't like the tropes in it. My friend was like, please read it, please read it. Like I'm jarred by the ending. And I was really jarred by the ending, but the ending made me really, really uncomfortable. This was not okay. I don't know, if you can look, like if you like taboo romance, definitely give it a shot. But at the end of the day, to me, I'm like, far out, she's underage. Technically she's underage, and I was like not okay with it. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but I was just like, this gives me the creeps. And especially we know about what happens with Larry Nassar and how this has happened. Like gymnast coaches have abused their gymnasts before. I don't know if I can vibe with it. And it's also a 5-book series of like 600-page novels. And it's about the same couple. I don't know if I can spend 5 books reading about their toxic back and forth. And I really don't like him. He's very unlikable. He threatens her. She threatens him, so he threatens her back. And some people said like, I don't like him until like the last half of the last book. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not about to invest so much of my time reading it. So for me, it wasn't the book for me. I understand people like it, but I don't think I like taboo romance. I'm really not sure. So my 2 2 stars. 1 was Scarred by Emily McIntyre. Again, another toxic, dark romance, but for me, this just hit like a limit that I was not okay for. I really liked like some levels of the plot, and I liked their chemistry, and I kind of liked it to a level. So I got 2 stars, but he drops a line where he's like, oh, you were naive to think I would stop when I said no. Regardless of how dark a romance is, I don't think I can vibe with I won't stop until when you say no. Like, I don't know. I can't get past that. For me, it just was not it. And the other 2 star that I gave was The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. And I was really disappointed because I love her writing. I love her work. But this was not it. It was toxic friendship. Yeah, I didn't enjoy the plot. I just think the MMC's best friend was really toxic and I just could not get past it. I read this on audio and I didn't love it, but it is what it is. On to my 3 stars. So one of them was Dom by Sophie Lark. I read this on ebook. I love Sophie Lark. I love her writing. I love everything she puts out. But for me, I don't like the pregnancy trope. I don't like accidental pregnancy. I don't like the virginity trope. And I thought this was like a captive vibe, and it wasn't. I don't know, it felt very disjointed. There was a lot of like back and forth, a lot of like time jumps. I just did not love it. At the end of the day, it isn't my normal tropes, but it was still enjoyable. I liked watching them fall in love, but it doesn't need more than a 3 star for me, and it shouldn't be less than, because I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it at the same time. So I'm stopping there with the Underworld series. I'm not reading past Dom for a little while. I will probably pick him up later on in the year. My next 3-star is Archer's Voice. I really wanted to love this. I didn't love it. It was okay. The ending made me want to I listened to it on audio, and the ending made me want to throw my phone across the room because I just didn't like the way that the ending was told, but it is what it is. It was very, very toxic, very like toxic. The side characters are very toxic, and I just was like, I don't know. I didn't connect with it as much as like everyone else did. I kind of felt it very insta-lovey as well at times, but I still had a good time. And my last 3-star was Consider Me by Becca Mack, and I really wanted to love this book. I really wanted it to be a 5 stars. They're a reformed playboy. She's like a school teacher, and he's like obsessed with her, and he chases her, and it had the recipe to be the perfect spicy romance book, but I was getting sick of the fact that it was just constantly harped on that he was a playboy and she couldn't get past that. And the fact that she was short. I didn't need to be told every 5 pages that she is short and he's a playboy. I get it. You told me at the start. I don't need to hear it again. Like, it was just infuriating. I'm like, I'm not dumb. I don't need you to tell me this over and over again. That is why I didn't like it. The plot was there. I didn't like the 3rd act breakup because at the end of the day, it had everything to do with him being a playboy. There was a lot of moments that I did love when they were together and their chemistry and their banter. I loved it. The writing is great. I felt like the age demographic also was wrong. I feel like this should have been set as a college romance. Like, they felt so childish that they belonged in college. It's like 29 and she's like 27. Like, we don't behave like this at our age. Can I say it just didn't hit the way I wanted it to hit. It takes over, like, it's over 11 months. And the way that they literally like fall in love, like they get rid of their issues, fall in love, get married, all within 11 months. 4 stars. There is a few that I liked and a few that I really enjoyed. They're not the creme de la creme. The first one is Wretched by Emily McIntyre. Emily McIntyre has had a 2-star, a 3-star, and a 4-star in this series so far. Twisted comes out in a few days, so if I love that, maybe it'll be a 5-star, but maybe, I don't know. We'll see how we go. But Wretched is a Wizard of Oz retelling, and the FMC is the morally grey one, and he is an FBI agent. It's very like mindfuck vibes in terms of that. This was a true mafia book. I thought that this whole series was a mafia series. It is not, but it is a mafia book. They are morally grey. The spice is unmatched. Was fantastic. I loved every second of it. I listened to an audio as well, but oh my god, the spice was so good as well. I thought it was great. I honestly thought it was great. And I was starting to lose faith in her books because I just was like, nothing was really hitting, but this absolutely hit the way I wanted it to hit. And then right after that, I ended up listening to Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. I love Katie Robert's books. I love them for the smart and the spice and the romance. I love that they're character focused. There is not much plot, but they are fun reads. They're a great thing to sort of get you out of a slumpy mood. It's an MMF, but like the guys have a relationship and they have a relationship with her, and she has a relationship with all of them. So it's polyamorous. It is a Helen of Troy, Achilles and Patroclus retelling. So much spice, and like it's like spicy Hunger Games. They're fighting to be the next Eros. They're fighting to be somebody that I can't remember their name. Super spicy. There was a good plot. This had probably the most plot of all her books, but I love her characters, and the men in this book, they worship Helen and they love that she's like headstrong and confident and all those kinds of things. Obsessed. Then I read Garnet Flats. That was a 4-star for me. It is a second chance romance. It follows Talia from the Eden siblings and her second chance romance with Foster, who leaves her for her best friend 7 years ago. And I really enjoyed it. It didn't wow me as much as the other ones. Second chance romance isn't always my favorite trope, but I still enjoyed it. It was definitely fun. I Loved being back in Quincy. Quincy just, I'm obsessed with this series. It's not even funny. But Guy on Flights was really good. I have no major critiques other than it just didn't hit the same as the other ones. And when I'm comparing it to the other books that I rated, like I rated the first 2 5 stars, this just didn't match the energy that I wanted. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved Talia being an amazing human being. It was so good. And the resolution was great. I just found like the plot at the end, like the plot twist at the end was just like kind of flat. I gave Roman by Sophie Lark 4 stars. I obviously read that before. Dom, oh my God. I loved it. It was set in Paris. It was so much fun. It was everything. So much fun. I was like bullied, like he bullied her in high school, or yeah, high school. And then they literally bump into each other in Paris and she's got to like write an expose about him and like she wants to like burn him down. She's a really toxic mother. And in the end, she just like, the FMC just is like, I don't want to live like this. I'm going to do what I want. Fuck everybody else. Fuck men. Fuck my mom. I want to do what I want to do. And it was really, really fun. I loved like the undercurrent of like, I love the plot of the corrupt business mafia world. It was really, really fun. It was more than just like killing everybody in a mafia setting. It was like, you got to see more of the corrupt business side and the business dealings that mafia does, which was I thoroughly enjoyed. The setting was fantastic. Being in Paris was so cool. I'd never read a mafia book where they're set in Paris, so loved Roman. I read my first Omegaverse this month. I read A Baby and the Late Night Howlers was my first one, and I read Baby and the Late Night Howlers as an ebook. It was definitely a fun ride. It was definitely a 4 stars. I liked the semi-plot that there was. It felt very like Hey Roberty when there's not a lot of plot, mainly spice. The issue that didn't give it a 5 star for me was that there was too many men because they run in pack. It's like a motorcycle club. So every man has 2 names and I was getting confused about which is which and who was who. I couldn't get the names straight in my head, and that is the reason it dropped ratings for me, because I was lost. Too many people, like Scorch, and like Scorch is Jonah, I think. And then like, it was just, and then, some of them I could understand, but then there was other ones that I was like, I don't know who you are. Which one are you? And I also expected more group scenes because there's like, it's an Omegaverse and there's like so many men. I expected like more than 2 people in a spunny scene, and that's what I expected. It didn't happen. But it was still a fun ride, and it was a great book to sort of introduce me to the Omegaverse because it gives you a really good explanation of how it works and what the whole concept is. It was great. I listened to Lola and the Millionaires Part 1. That was very different. Lola's a beta and she's in a pack with all men as a male Omega, and she has a lot of trauma that she's working through. It was really good. Very, very smutty. It was a lot easier to wrap my head around all the characters because they all have one name and there was less of them. So that was great. The only reason it probably dropped again for me is because I don't think it needed to be what Part 1 and Part 2. Probably could have been condensed. It didn't need to be so long. There's not a lot of plot, so I just don't think it needed to be that long, but definitely fun. I love where the plot is going, and I loved the relationships and her healing and watching that all unfold. So gets a 4 star for me. My last 4 star is something that I was very skeptical going into. I thought I'd been hearing negative reviews and people saying it's very cringy and very, like, the main characters were very, very childish. But that was Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I really enjoyed this. Yes, it is very cringy. Yes, I think the MMC is quite frustrating. The reason this gets negative reviews is because it's so long. Like, this is over like a 600-page book. It doesn't need to be that long, and if it hadn't been that long, the MMC would have been less frustrating. That's how I feel about it. Was it still fun? Definitely. Was it spicy? Yes. Was it the spiciest book I ever read? No. It is spicier than a Daphne Perry book, for sure. But I loved all the characters in this small town. The climax at the end was fantastic, but the climax doesn't come until literally like right here. And it's like, well, what was the point of all this? It just, yeah, the second epilogue was really, really good. It's about Naomi and Knox. Naomi has a twin sister, Tina, who is like the town menace. She runs away and leaves her daughter with Naomi, and Naomi didn't know that this daughter exists. And she bumps into Grumpy Knox, and it's their love story. And Naomi is just amazing. Her parents are so good. Naomi was also running away from her wedding. Can't wait for the next one, which comes out very soon. It's about Knox's brother, Nash. I loved this small town. This town is not as good as Quincy, but it is very close. So I'm glad I enjoyed this. I thought it was quite enjoyable. On to my 5 stars. There was 4 of them, and I loved every single one of them. 3 of them I think are gonna be in my top reads of the year. Most definitely. Let's start with The Co-op by Tara DeWitt. Oh my God, I love this so much. It is marriage of convenience. They had to renovate a house. It's also like second chance. They had like a fling when they were like teenagers, and Lorraine and Deacon have to renovate their grandmother's houses. So their grandmothers were together. They both passed on, and they both get left equal share in this house. So they want to renovate it and sell it. But to do that, they have to get access to Lorraine's trust fund, but she cannot access it until she is married. So they get married, and it is them falling in love and navigating, getting to know each other again. Lorraine is very complex, has a lot of trauma that she's dealing with from her dad and her parents back and forth. And Deacon has a lot of trauma from his really bad dad as well. And it was just so heartwarming and everything. I related so much to Lorraine. She was fantastic. And she's French Canadian. It was honestly just everything and more for me. I love it, and I cannot wait to read more of Tara DeWitt's work. It was just unmatched for me. Absolutely unmatched. Then it was the second book in the Eden series, and that is called Juniper Hill. I can't even explain how much I love this book to you guys. Juniper Hill was so special. It is about Knox, again another Knox and Memphis. And Memphis is a single mum, and she's run away from her family in New York, and she wants to start again. And there's like tons of drama surrounding her kid and who the kid's dad is. And Knox has a lot of trauma and pain that he's dealing with from his past relationship and forced proximity. Knox's little sister, Eloise, hires Memphis to clean her hotel as a cleaner for her hotel, but she has nowhere to stay. Memphis couldn't afford the rent. So she says, you can stay at my brother Knox's loft. This is the price. And she goes there, and Knox does not want her there at all. And he is so grumpy. Oh my God, I loved it. Them falling in love was fantastic. And there was no third act breakup, which was great. You cannot go wrong with this book. It was fantastic. I loved every single second of it. I loved it. It was a little bit, like, it wasn't super spicy, but it was a little bit more spicy than Indigo Ridge. I loved it. Knox is the kindest soul and the sweetest boy in the entire world. He ends up worshipping the ground that Drake and Memphis walk on, and once he learns to love them, you cannot, like, it was amazing. I loved it. I cannot rave enough about this book, honestly. Has my whole heart and soul. The next book that I gave 5 stars was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is a debut novel, second chance, childhood friends to lovers. There is a massive plot twist. Check your triggers in case you don't vibe with what the plot twist is, but for me, this book had something special in it for me. It hit me in so many places I didn't expect it to hit. The characters were so realistic and so real, and their pain and their struggles really come through on the page, that it was unmatched. This book is unmatched. It was fantastic. Now, I haven't read any of the books that this is compared to, which is Love and Other Words and Say You Swear, but I am going to read those very soon, so I'll be bringing a video to you comparing those 2 books to this. Then again, I do not want to compare books, because at the end of the day, every story is different. The undercurrent and the underlying plot and the underlying message of every book is different. But I will definitely do the video and bring you guys my thoughts about how I feel about this book. But this is something special. This is going to be one of my favorites too. So this Juniper Hill and then The Co-op, at this point, I don't know if anything can beat them this year. And they will probably be in my top 10 of the year. But we'll see how we go. But please pick this up. It was amazing writing for a debut novel. I cannot wait to read her next book. Carly Fortune is fantastic. I loved it being set on like a Canadian link, different from something set in America. Again, I really connected to the FMC and her story as a teenager. I loved it. Just trust me and pick this book up. Go into it with an open mind. Go into it just wanting to understand what the author is trying to tell you through this. Dig deep when you read this, because I think there is a lot of message in here that makes it amazing. My last 5-star was something that I was very skeptical going into because I didn't love the previous book, but that was Play With Me by Becca Mack. So it's the second book to Consider Me. I loved it. I sat on it like for a little while thinking, is it a 4 stars? Is it a 5 stars? And I ended up just going with 5 stars. It's like, you know what? I feel it in my gut that this was fantastic and I loved it. The banter was fantastic. The plot was fantastic. It's brother's best friend trope and they live in the same apartment building. Jenny and Garrett are just hilarious. They start like a friends with benefits situation, but they're not. There's no sex. They're doing everything else but sex. Oh my God. It was spicy. It was like vanilla spice, but so good. There was a lot of spice. I loved it. I loved their banter. Their dynamic was so good. They warmed my soul. Jenny has trauma she's working through. So does Garrett. Garrett's dad was an alcoholic and abandoned him. Jenny has a dad that was killed in a car accident by a drink driver. So she just has a lot of pain, and she had a really traumatic incident happen to her as a teenager. And here they're like helping each other heal. There was no major third act breakup. It was, yeah, there was a little bit of like a moment where they stopped talking, but it was very quickly resolved. And yeah, my issue that I had with it that I thought I was gonna give it 4 stars was because Carter, Jenny's brother, was just really painful, treated the whole situation really terribly when he found out about them hooking up. He completely overreacted and he's very childish, but ultimately Garrett puts him in his place and he wakes up to himself. So I loved it. In the end, I think because Garrett could put him in his place, it made it a 5 star. So that is how I feel about that book. I am gonna leave this video here because that is 18 books that I read in the month of January. Started off the year great with 4 5 stars. Cannot complain. I loved every second. So I hope you guys like this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next monthly wrap up. Bye guys.